everyone. Welcome back to the TradeInformer Podcast. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Joao Monteiro, who is the founder and CEO of forex and XlentPay, which we will be discussing today. So I'm also super happy to be talking to Joao because I'm always so happy to see him.
I really appreciate, first of all, I'm also very happy to have you here in Cyprus and to catch up. We always take the opportunity to catch up in London during some events sometimes, but in Cyprus is also a place to be, and also with great weather to end.
Yeah,
good to catch up. It's definitely a pleasure to be here with you. Happy to touch the points that I believe some are interesting to share. And
yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so maybe we can start by, I think you launched in 2019, was it? I feel like basically
2018.
You were like one of the first people to kind of realize, leverage caps are too extreme. They're really going to go after this industry. Like the model needs to change. So can you actually just talk about like the process of how you started the company, why you decided to do it, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. No, this is many people indeed ask me about this, and this is quite the sequence of things. Somehow they also come as a result from the intervention from on the restrictions with ESMA and so on.
Yeah.
And so we had back in 2018 the idea to launch the business. Back then I was working with other entity as a director, SciSec regulated, and SciSec was always a main I would say the point of licenses especially in Europe for many reasons. Due to the interventions in Europe and the cut of leverage, the way IBs were restricted from getting paid on volumes and so on, I started looking for alternative solutions. Offshore, even though some people were already using offshore license, Belize, Vanuatu, and so on, I wanted to have something unique because sometimes the small details matter. And when I spoke with my lawyers back then about a possible alternative jurisdiction, which there is no bad press, there is not big information online that can really damage the business as I'm starting. My lawyers gave me two alternatives back then. Funny enough, he gave me one from Cook Islands, which was the one that we have until now, and he gave me one from Hawaii or something like this. Something really Tonga. Something that really didn't feel that was the right approach. Cook Islands, I did this intense research about the jurisdiction, about the regulation, and also I was able to find that from a compliance rating on the banking side, Cook Islands was very well placed from a compliance standpoint. So I felt that it could also help us on the banking side. So back then there was not many players there, and still there are because of the requirements from local office, from external audit. So there is still alternative, cheaper and more flexible solutions nowadays. But back then, to differentiate myself, I end up there, and I must say that we've been growing back then. Offshore was an alternative, but not many people were still considering it as a solution because they have the SciSec and so on, and Australia ASIC as well. But then, as you saw since then, I think every broker end up just getting their own offshore.
I checked this week, and there were, prior to 2018, I think there were only something like 20 or maybe less Mauritius securities dealers, and now there's more than 500. So it's a big change. And the Seychelles, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 securities dealers, and now there's 219 or something like that. So you were kind of ahead of the curve. But what has the process been like? I mean, I think most people starting any company, right? But I think particularly this industry, it just seems like every day there's some kind of headache, every day there's some kind of problem. So
there are many problems always, but this is in any type of company, any industry.
Yeah.
But we have our own challenges every day.
Yeah.
I could say that. There are many from the banking, from the liquidity, from the execution, from the flow that some clients might send to us, which some of them are not permitted by our liquidity pool providers. So we have always some restrictions on that. Then there are the challenges of getting clients in that in jurisdictions which we are not able to solicit business. So we understand our legal restrictions as well with many countries, and to go around these restrictions, but still be able to have a competitive offer. You know that I always say this to my partners, that especially when you are a poorly offshore brokerage, because forex we don't say it proudly, but we've been always growing the business based on offshore licenses. So we got the Cook Islands. Now also we have the Seychelles as well, licensed, obtained recently. So the first year is you need to prove that you are not a scam. Yeah. The second year is to prove how are these guys still alive. Yeah. The third year is they might be doing something right. And then on the fourth year, okay, let me check them out. Okay. So it takes 4 years to be able to fight with bigger players with multiple licenses at the end of the day. Yeah. Then you adapt also to the jurisdictions that you want to target, because we were not ever very focused in Europe, even though I spend most of the time in Europe. Wouldn't make sense, at least until now, had not made sense to get an European license. Many people do it just for the marketing, for the stamp, for the validation, which is a fair reason, but it's also a very high cost to get a validation. And I try to compensate that, giving my face to the business from day one, to be always the front image in a relationship with partners, because at the end of the day that gives also security to the clients and to the partners, that the person is not hiding. And you go online and you do a very ongoing checks on brokers that you mentioned now on the number of offshore license, and you go and you check publicly online from that 500 brokers that you mentioned, how many are you able to see who is the owner from a LinkedIn? You will not find that information that easily. So we that transparency end up to be the best selling point we could have.
Yeah. Is there anything that has sort of surprised you along the way, like that you found? I think basically you have a lot of people who might be watching or who kind of read my website, where they are. I think it tends to be salespeople, to be honest, that they think, I want to go and start my own broker. So like, if you were talking to that person, what would you say is the biggest thing that they need to be careful of, and like the hardest, let's say, hurdle to overcome to actually make the business a success?
No, absolutely. I think the good salespeople, and we have that experience with forex, the good salespeople end up having this ambition and this goal to have. Because if they are able to generate their own business, why to share or to get just a small cut of the pie if they can get the full pie? So that is understandable. The thing is that a brokerage business is not purely bringing clients in. It's how you treat that kind of flow, how you manage the risk internally. Are you going to pass everything to the liquidity provider, so you're going to get just a small piece of the pie? You take the risk and you internalize and you do some market making, but then you have all the risk on your hands. So are you able to keep this sustainable? Because a one mistake can really bring you a big loss. So that's important, to have the right people and the right technology to support you. There are multiple providers now that give consulting on the risk management, on the technology side, on the bridge setup. There's multiple providers that you came across, and there's more and more nowadays that can really help you to succeed on that industry. But I think it's important to know people that you can trust, people that can really are qualified to handle these matters by themselves. And they need to delegate, because at the end of the day, even a small brokerage, you cannot do everything by yourself. You cannot micromanage because you don't have time to handle everything. So it's really to find the right technology and the right people to help you to succeed.
Yeah. No, I've just hired someone who's like the second, I guess, person who I've got working for me. And it is difficult, because you feel, especially for me personally, right? Media is like, I'm basically involved in every part of the business, from, I guess, writing to kind of managing whatever, relationships and all that kind of stuff. And there's just small things that you see where you go like, I would not have done it that way, and it would be better if I did it this way. But actually, you just don't have the, like, if you're doing that all day, then you will just not get anything done.
I had a conversation last week with a partner of mine that said something really, really interesting, is that if you want to do it perfectly, you do it yourself. If you want to scale the business, you need to delegate and expect and already accept that it will not be perfect, but it will be done. And so you always have this dilemma. Either you handle it and it's perfectly done, or you just do it somehow, even at 60% of what it should be done. But at least it's done, and you take it out of the way. So it's always you need to manage as you grow this kind of matters. Yeah,
no, definitely. So one of the topics you were talking about before, right, is obviously Brazil is a big market for you guys, and I think if you look at the industry in general, there's quite a few players that either are targeting there or would like to be targeting there. But obviously, it's kind of an interesting market in a lot of ways. And like, for example, we reported, I think 6 months ago, how XTB was trying to do things in a very, let's say, proper and legitimate way, and then ended up, it seemed like, being basically hounded out by a local exchange, by really facing a lot of problems with them. So can you just talk about what you guys are doing there, and, like, I don't know, nuances of the market, like how you're making it work, basically?
Sure. In Brazil, it's definitely an interesting market, and many people are really trying to target. It's a very delicate market from a regulatory standpoint. So it's, as people know, and whoever is watching us, I think they also should know this. The regulator, there is no license for forex in Brazil. So the forex is not allowed. The Brazilian person can invest in a brokerage firm, but a brokerage firm from outside Brazil cannot solicit business actively in Brazil. This comes obviously with a lot of restrictions. We cannot actually promote the brokerage there. You can use some partners which can redirect business privately to you. And our business I would say 90% of our business been based on IB networks. So people that have their referral codes, they bring people, they introduce, etc. So it's always a little bit tricky to advertise our service in Brazil. Then you have brokerages which took the initiative to get a local brokerage firm called DTVM, which is a brokerage like Active Trades. They did it in the past, and they were one of the first ones to get it. But that license allows you to sell the local products from Brazilian exchange. So you cannot, even though you are licensed in Brazil, you cannot say, guys, come to my office. Also, by the way, we have a sister company in the UK that sells Forex and CFDs. Go and sign up. You cannot, because that is really against the rules. So it's very delicate matter. Then, in our case, we did something, I believe, we are not the pioneers on that, but I think it's always a good solution to have, is that we created a Forex Research. Forex Research is a market research entity licensed by the CVM in Brazil, which allow us to talk about Forex market, to give market analysis, to give insights about the market. And we are not promoting the brokerage, but indirectly we have the association to the group, and we are able to talk at least about the Forex market without any legal repercussions. So that was also a nice way to overcome these restrictions. Then payment methods. We have our own payment institution in Brazil, so we were able to also to accommodate some of the payments because now payments are also being very restricted in Brazil because also of the deliberations from the regulator. So the Bank of Brazil also set maximum amounts, and also the transactions to financial institutions are being more and more restricted. Yeah. So having the financial institution there from the group also helped us to streamline the payments in Brazil to our entities. Then it's a matter of relationship. I think each market has their own specifications. The Brazilian market is a market where you need to have a very good communication with people. Yeah. People from Brazil, they are warm people. They like to have this direct contact, to meet in person, to go to invite for a drink, to go to catch up in person in Brazil. So that's really, this human touch is extremely important. If you compare with the Nordic people in Europe or a German, they don't even want to be called or reach out. They just, okay, give me the bank details, Euro SEPA, transfer, money is in, let me trade, don't bother me. Yeah. In Brazil it's different. In Brazil, if you don't reach out to them and if you don't have this regular contact, they say, I'm going elsewhere because here no one gives me a call. They don't love me. They don't love me anymore.
They love you.
So that's also a very important point, is we need to keep this communication going. As you grow the business, and we have almost 100,000 clients registered from Brazil. Wow. In our database. It's humanly impossible to call everyone. Yeah. We have teams that have a welcome call, that we give the ongoing support in Portuguese, not just for Brazil, but all the countries that speak Portuguese. We have the language, also Spanish as well for the other LATAM countries. But it needs always to have this direct communication with them. We try to reach out to everyone. Sometimes it's not possible, so it's casualties from
scale. Yeah, wow. And what is the sort of persona like of a good client there, right? Because this is something I always find interesting for emerging market countries, which is if you look at, say, like if you look at the UK and the big players in the UK, essentially their model is you cast a big net, and you catch, let's say, 10,000 fish, whatever, and 5 of them are going to be the ones that really are making the majority of your revenue. But I guess in a country like Brazil, or really other, let's say, basically where per capita income is lower, like is that still the dynamic that exists, or is it more just like you have to just get a lot of volume and as in client numbers to make it work?
We have both types. To be honest, we have the traditional trader that comes by themselves to us. They will start always with a small amount. They test the water, they increase the deposit. We don't never expect big amounts from an individual trader. Then the bigger depositors are clients which are introduced by someone. So the one already kind of sold the brand and the credibility of forex, and they subscribe some investment solution, either through a PAM account or a copy trading or something like that, or they sell some kind of expert advisor and they apply to their account. So that's people that already have an investment in mind, and they don't know much about trading themselves in the market, but they are able to invest into someone else's strategy. So that's normally the people that put a bit more money. From our side, we have, from an execution standpoint, we cover both worlds. So we obviously have the good traders are on a book, and we pass all the flow to our liquidity. We don't take the risk. Then we have probably some other clients which our risk management detects as possibly an extra source of revenue, and we internalize. But we talk openly about it. Because there's more importantly is to have a fair and clear execution. All our clients are opening and closing their trades at a fair market price. We do not create any kind of artificial slippage of any sort. So our clients, they already continue with us because they know that they have a fair treatment, and that's what also makes us grow. Because if you have an approach where you give them everything they want just to bring them in, and then to find the most crazy ways of affecting their trading. This information always goes out, and especially in Brazil, where there are so many forums, so many complaint websites. If we really had a bad approach, all this information would be out there. Yeah. So we try to have a fair approach to have a long-lasting business.
Nice. And are you doing anything in any other of the Latin American countries?
Yes, we do have. We have. I think in every Latin country we have business. Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, Paraguay is also start to get a bit of traffic because there's many brokerages now getting license in Paraguay.
Yeah, you do.
These are getting some traffic now. I think mostly Uruguay, Argentina also they are growing. So there are Chile, Peru also very strong. So we have business from that regions as well.
And is it like do you see? I mean, you worked on European countries before, and you kind of touched on say the difference between Brazilians and Nordic countries. But like, would you say there's other I don't know things that happen in either in the region as a whole or in specific countries where if you're not catering to it, then you're just not going to be very successful. That maybe someone wouldn't expect something like that.
Sure. I would say in LATAM, the pool of licenses is not as important as in Europe. In Europe, if you have a client from Denmark, from Sweden, or any country, they do care a lot about if you have a European license, where are your banks located, and so forth. In Latin America, they see that you are licensed, even offshore, and because at the end of the day, a license from Cyprus, a license from Mauritius, for them it's still a license outside of their region. So they are more flexible on that. In Europe, you are able to overcome the lack of European license by offering solid banks as well. For them to deposit, which is also gives a little bit more credibility. And then also one important point, and many people do not talk about that, is that the clients need to be aware that, especially if they are very good traders and their flows are passed to the liquidity providers, their funds will be shifted to our liquidity providers to maintain the margins in our margin accounts. So even though they might come from Denmark and they might deposit in a EMI in Lithuania, let's say, their funds will be transferred to Barclays, NatWest, to solid banks of our liquidity providers, because the biggest liquidity providers in the industry, most of them are from London, UK, as you know, and they all use Barclays, NatWest, so that when you transfer the funds are parked in Barclays, not in your EMI where the client deposited. So the client also needs to understand the flow of funds to be able to understand that it's not necessarily bad to have top up their account with an EMI when after the funds will be moved
to a good
liquidity provider.
Yeah, nice. Okay, well, we can change topic a bit, which is something you mentioned was you have this banking license in Brazil, and you also have one in I think Canada with this other brand, XlentPay.
Correct.
So can you talk about how that company came to fruition? Like, why did you start it? What does it do?
Sure. Now, it's in simple terms. We, as we mentioned now about the brokerage business, one of the biggest hurdles are indeed getting good banking relationships. So it's always hard to onboard a brokerage firm, especially offshore, with a good solid bank, because they always is a kind of industry and a kind of business which they don't want to take. We have tried multiple banks. We had bank accounts which are still with us for many years, since 2018, but we have others which after 6 months they close us down. Then we need to be explaining to customers the bank has closed our account, then we need to move them to somewhere other bank details. It was really a hard thing to manage. 2 years ago, with a conversation with some of my friends and lawyers, they suggested me to get some financial fintech company in Canada, because Canada, believe me or not, I think is number one in terms of credibility. Some ranking released last year, not so much on the banking, but as a country as a whole, Canada is really in the top when it comes to credibility. And we checked, and there was indeed a possibility to get a fintech entity in Canada called MSB, Money Service Business, which facilitates dedicated wallets, crypto on ramp and off ramp, prepaid cards, and so on. And then we initially, which was a solution that I idealized as a solution for forex in a sense, as we put so much effort into the business, we realized now we have here something that is really a solution that can help hundreds of businesses, especially high-risk businesses, because they cannot find that easily accounts for safeguarding of client funds. Because you find a lot of banks that can onboard offshore brokerages, but they give you operational accounts. So you can obviously top up, convert crypto into fiat, pay MetaCodes or pay any other platform provider, and that's it. But you cannot receive client funds. And that was always the key point of finding a solution for that. So we were able to, with multiple contacts, to create a pool of now almost 15 different banks around the world, different currencies, which can give dedicated IBAN and pool accounts for any kind of business, to be honest, but especially the high risk, which are the ones that's more in need for a C2B, B2B account types.
And so how has that progressed so far? So
Definitely. We have not done much marketing on that front, but we are getting a lot of interest, because there are not many really solutions for brokerage firms on the banking side. So we are word of mouth. People are happy. People are recommending others. Fiduciary companies are the best introducers at the end of the day, because they get their licenses and then they need a bank account for them. We are getting quite a lot of traffic on that. It's been very, very interesting.
But I'm in here in Cyprus for the expo, and I'm sure if I go on the first day tomorrow, there's going to be 100 PSP kind of people. So why? Basically, when you say that there's a limited number of banks, but then you go to the expo and it feels like there's a million payment solutions. What's the difference between what they're doing versus, say, what you guys are doing?
I know, I completely understand your question. I think most of them, they do serve accounts for operational reasons, as I mentioned. So if you ask them, C2B account for an offshore licensed brokerage, the salesperson might tell you, yes, we can do it on the spot, just sign it here. But then when he goes to the compliance, they will, sorry guys, it's not as clear as you think. We have tried to specialize exactly on that niche. So we have, as I mentioned, multiple banking partners for each currency. So we can, if we submit the application via API to one specific bank, they reject, no problem. We send to a second one, it reject, goes to a certain one. So we always
LP,
have. I kind of cascade it in a manual way, but it's still a cascading on the banking partners. And as I mentioned, we've been able to accommodate. And then I think that what banking lacked, at least until now, was a bit of use of common sense on the banking relationship, because the compliance team, they don't want to take risks. They receive the documentation, they ask for documentation. Sometimes the client does not provide a real good information, and then the transaction gets failed, the account gets closed, and so on. We try to because I've been in the industry for so many years, I understand which documents are needed, what are required. So we are able to inform them from the start which documentation is needed, so there's no surprises at the end of the day. So that's also important, to have this communication from your customers to our entity and to our entity to our banking partners.
Yeah.
If there's communication, clear communication, things become easier.
Yeah. Is there any risk that you become a victim of your own success? So if you have, let's say, lots of brokers or other, I don't know if you're going after other industries like iGaming or something, but lots of companies come to you, and then just because so many of them are using you, then a kind of natural consequence is, some of them cause problems, and then that can cause problems for anyone else, or is that not a risk?
This is always a risk from the type of business that we are. Definitely, we try always to have this good communication with our banking partners, which type of clients we have, and we always pass this responsibility, let's say, to our banking partner. We say, guys, we are onboarding you, corporate clients or individual clients. Do whatever assessment you need to do. You need to protect your house. If you feel that some specific client is not suitable based on your risk appetite, on your parameters, just close it down. Don't affect my business, because at the end of the day, I'm not the one submitting this kind of payment. So I rely this information both to the customer and to the banking partner. So at the end of the day, if they close it down, man, listen, I try to help you. We can look for another banking partner that can accommodate this type of flow, and that's how we go. We try to make things clear for everyone.
Nice. And my final question is, you've been going for 8 years now, so almost a decade. If you look to the kind of future, let's say 5 years from now, what would you like the kind of group that you've built to look like? I mean, do you just want to keep chugging along, or is there like an end vision for what you would like the company to be?
My days only have 24 hours, and it's becoming hard to manage, to be honest with you. No, not much sleep these days. I do foresee that there's always a space for growth. There are regions which are untackled from our side. We never, to be honest, forex never had much exposure, for example, in Asian markets, which are so rich. But we never had the right people and the right contacts in the region. So there are regions that are totally unexplored yet. So on the brokerage side, there's so much we can do and so much we can grow, so much additional license we can obtain. So that's we did a bit of a restructure now on the license, as I mentioned, on shifting to Seychelles, some of the business. So we are adapting also to the challenge of the market. On the banking side, as we grow, probably there will be a need of eventually even considering a banking license at some point to make us even more solid to the eyes of the customer and as a business project. But that we go with the flow, and we don't. We try to live every day as much as we can, and try to have the right decisions. And the first feeling on things normally ends up to be the right one.
Nice, cool. Well, Joao, thanks so much for doing this. It was as always fun talking to you, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Thank you very much for inviting.